I'm Amy Rose White, integrated psychotherapist, making videos on soul tools for spiritual life. Today, I want to talk about something near and dear to my heart that a lot of us have been experiencing in May and June, and that is graduation. Graduation as a grieving ritual. We have all kinds of formal and informal ceremonies in Western culture, and I think that they harken back to times when human beings were a little more connected, or perhaps a lot more connected, to the deep, deep intrinsic intrapsychic need we have for ceremony and ritual to mark transitions, not only to help us understand their significance, but to act as a bridge to cross from one landscape of our life into the next. We need them in so many areas. And this time of year, you might be experiencing a graduation of sorts personally in your life. Perhaps you are finishing college or university or a certificate degree of some kind, or perhaps you're just graduating out of a marriage into single life, or vice versa. But for many of us, we might have a child who's finishing preschool and is about to start kindergarten, or is finishing high school and about to start college, or go to a trade school, or in my case, take time off to run their own businesses. The graduation of my youngest is one of the reasons that I'm talking about this today, because it made me realize that in so many ways, as parents or guardians or caregivers of those we love who are technically graduating, we're also in a parallel process of graduation. And this process is actually a really, really big deal for the psyche because it involves quite a bit of loss. We tend to focus on celebrations. Wedding is all about celebrating a union, a baby shower, or blessing way is all about celebrating the birth of a new child. But rarely do we honor the intrinsic losses associated with those important milestone events and beautiful celebrations. The reality is there's a lot of loss, pain, and sadness for those of us who are graduating alongside the little people in our lives, or even just a part of our own life that we've outgrown or we've accomplished something and now we're moving on. Because it implicitly means that there's a death of what came before the graduation, the ceremony, and a stepping into what is often an unknown future. As human beings, our brains do not like uncertainty. In fact, they crave certainty to the degree that we will obsess and seek advice from all sorts of people, astrologers, psychics, tarot readers, all of whom are people that I see. I am a practicing astrologer myself in my practice, but we can tend to be so uncomfortable with uncertainty that we look to other people to tell us exactly what the future holds, when really any of us, all we can possibly do, regardless of our gifts, is offer people possibilities that the energies might support. And even then, we could be completely wrong. We just don't know what the future holds. So as we think of graduation as a grieving ritual, I would invite us to consider that collectively and individually, we have a need to mark the crossing of a threshold. We have a need to honor the person that we were during, perhaps as a parent's, in a parent's case, all the years we pour into nurturing a child from one stage to the next, to the next, to the next. And there's so many in those 12 years of what most children do in public education, or perhaps you homeschool. It kind of feels like it's never going to end. And when it does, and there's this graduation ceremony or completion of really any kind, it takes a lot for the psyche to digest that we must attend to the part of us that didn't expect the journey to be complete and now has to grapple with who we are in the absence of all the busy work and the energy and the effort that we put into helping the people in our lives get to that graduation moment. And that's true whether you have a sixth grader or an eighth grader or a 12th grader, or even a child finishing college or a master's degree, or perhaps just graduating from something important. Maybe it's a military academy. It could be anything. It is important to find some stillness and some solitude and space, even if it's 10 or 15 minutes, where we make time to feel the embodied sense of grief and loss, or even just the liminal space between all of that we knew related to the people in our lives as they moved forward, and our identity related to them, and all the unknown that exists on the other side of that threshold. We really need to take time to honor the loss of the old and open into a tolerance for all the new possibilities that lay before us, including that very uncomfortable uncertainty. So holding those two opposing things is another challenge for the human mind. And it's in solitude that we increase our nervous system's tolerance for both, that we honor that graduation is a beautiful ceremony of celebration and victory. And to me, in my mind, for a lot of youth who are finishing high school and college at this time, it's actually marking an important honoring of survival, because many of our youth did not survive the last 4 years. And that's an unfortunate truth not a lot of people are talking about. A lot of people didn't graduate this year, and that's okay too. They're still graduating from one part of their life into another, even though they might not be walking across the stage with a diploma of sorts. And that's certainly not what is required to mark beginnings and endings. However, without any kind of ceremony, we miss the chance to acknowledge who we were, who we are now, and who we are looking to be in the future. So the two opposing truths are, of course, that we can celebrate survival, which I know sounds grim, but truly it's a really big deal simply to have made it for all of us through this recent time in history. Even though we have it so much better than many generations prior, it has been a unique challenge, especially to be a young person. We can celebrate that victory, and we can also hold the fear that comes for people as they aren't quite sure what the future brings or if they'll be able to handle it, and the questioning around our own identity in the world. Who am I if I'm not pouring all of my energy into my children? Who am I if I saved for XYZ program for my kid and now we're at the end of that goal? What's the next achievement can often be the question that remains for us. What I think is an even more valuable question is, how do I make meaning about my worth, my importance, and my place in the world now that this graduation has been accomplished? As our children get older, as people that are important to us evolve and they walk their path alone, as adults, we have to really own that our identity doesn't come just through being in their lives, but through a deep relationship with ourselves, which we may now have time for once to actually carve out a deeper relationship, to know ourselves more intimately, to ask questions like, what do I really want? If I couldn't fail, what would I do? Those kind of classic questions, and be willing to sit with not knowing. Many of us who are parents don't at this stage. We've devoted 18, 20, 30 or more years to the well-being of our children. Perhaps we've had a career, perhaps we've been working at home raising the kids, perhaps we've been doing both. And now we get to really say, I'm going to carve out some solitude. I'm going to create a ritual for myself. And that's actually what I've done for myself. I decided to graduate. I'm graduating, and I'm probably going to get emotional just thinking about it, because even though my kids will always need me, now that my youngest is done with high school, I am graduating from the time in my life where that was my only real goal, besides serving my clients and having the big career that I've been lucky to have. And now it's up to me. It's not up to anyone else. I'm not giving my power away to anyone else to determine that for me. It's really on me. And I think that the blessing and the burden of that responsibility is another one of those competing, opposing truths that we get to make time and space for, to sit with. So I invite you to create a graduation ritual for yourself. I invite you to get dressed in the robes and the hat if you want, or in my case, I put on lots of fancy, colorful stuff that I like. Didn't look anything like you would actually wear at graduation, or that I did at mine. And lit a candle and really feel into the space of pride, of having made it, of uncertainty, of fear, and ritualize your graduation. Put a rope in front of you and say goodbye to the you that used to exist. As you step over the rope, maybe you blow out the candle, maybe you say a prayer to yourself and to whatever your higher power is, if you have one, in gratitude, thanking that source for supporting you to get you here and asking you for support in this next leg of the journey. I hope this was helpful. If you have any ideas for what you'd like me to speak about, please feel free to mention that in the comments below. Thank you for your subscriptions. Thank you for liking and sharing this video. Until next time, may you be well, may you be safe, may you be healthy, may you be happy. Bye for now.